there's two camps. There's the folks who are perhaps afraid because I've worked the last decade, multiple decades, building out my brand and my reputation, et cetera, et cetera. And now I'm hearing that like the game is changing and where's my role in that? And then the other group is that I feel like I'm behind. How am I ever going to catch up, et cetera? And the good news is there's good news on both sides if you make the right moves now. And I'm happy to for either one of those groups to go into what specific strategies they should be thinking about for this next generational shift of AI.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Adventures of a Real Estate Broker with Daniel Berger. Thank you for joining us this week. I'm excited to have a co-founder of KeyCrew Media, Steve Marcinuk, who has an extensive background in digital media with AI expertise in AI platforms. He and his KeyCrew are helping real estate professionals increase their visibilities with AI-driven sales. And with that, I want to say thank you, Steve, for joining us on the podcast this week.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me and happy to go as deep down the rabbit hole in AI, media, real estate as you like. Happy to be here.
Now, they say sometimes there's a lot of things that businesses, you can have your strategic planning and your everything you're doing and you're following your plan, but it seems like you also need to have luck, right? Don't you think that luck is an important part of growing the business? And obviously, I'm not saying that you don't need to block and tackle, but like luck sometimes does have, it certainly helps, right?
For sure. There's a lot of sayings that luck is where preparation meets strategy. And
So that actually, Steve, that's fantastic. That is exactly correct because you make your own luck, right? I have an example. A friend of mine's a sportscaster, and it's a non-union sportscasting, and this is years ago. And he needed someone to help carry a tripod. And I turned carrying a tripod into the Mets and Yankees locker room into then holding the microphone, asking questions, learning about the camera, and then being in like at World Series, at All-Star games where I'm inside the locker room interviewing players, and people are like, "You're so lucky." And I'm like, actually, the luck exactly was the planning that I was willing to hold the tripod and help carry the stuff. And then eventually they're like, oh, you can do this. So you're right. In that sense, that's my life example of when people say how lucky I am that I'm in the locker room after a World Series game, it's really I created that luck. And I want to and everyone's what does this have to do with AI? It's a fair point, and I'm getting there. So I feel like in my real estate business now, I'm 10 years into my real estate business. And what do I know about AI and how does AI affect me? That's your business. But what I can tell you, and you might like this, is that I generally try to ask clients, where did you find me? Because I'm doing this, like what you said, you create your luck, right? I do print advertisements, which then leads to they do put it online. I've done different things to get your name out there. And while you're building that, you don't really know how successful it is. But I can tell you that I've gotten 4 clients in the last 3 months that have said they asked ChatGPT
yeah.
who's the best real estate agent in Westchester. And in all of those cases, my name came up. So I didn't know if it was top one. I actually keep asking the question. And I was at an event and someone didn't believe that. And in front of my wife, they did the same thing, and my name came up, and everyone was they were dying. They were like, and what's interesting is I'm not the biggest. I'm not the best. I just try to be the best me. But think about Chat GPT puts me on that platform and makes me number 4 as what multiple people have seen. And how powerful is that when this system of digital media and AI puts my name out there when people are searching? Because that is how people are searching these days. What do you think
Yeah,
about that?
absolutely. As I say, like, preparation meets opportunity. So if you're prepared, you have to be prepared to capitalize on the opportunities that are coming. And right now, there is a huge opportunity happening in this new wild west of AI search, AI discoverability. And what you're talking about, it sounds a bit like a magic trick. It sounds like you went to the phone, hey, ask me like a magic 8 ball. Who is the greatest of them all in this market? And what a miracle of miracle you show up, but there's actually a fair amount of technical foundation and preparation that's underneath the surface that is influencing these platforms, these AI search platforms, to suggest you as an expert. And there's actually a lot that individual agents, teams, brokers can do to influence this future of search.
So in my case, how funny is that I didn't know that I was doing that. I did things, again, I call it blocking and tackling. I did things to try to get my name out there. I'm 10 years into real estate, and as you can tell, I'm old. So it's my second, third career. How am I going to compete against other people that are bigger than me, have been doing it longer, all of that? And I was just blocking and tackling. It's not fancy. It's just doing this and it's this. And then, but AI is actually, like you said, is taking all these things. Funny thing is, so my brother tried that and doesn't get my name. And he's like, Danny, I thought you said, I go, I don't know. I don't know the algorithm and all this. So he says to ChatGPT, but I thought Danny Berger was a top real estate agent. And then it gave a list of, we didn't put him on this time, but he is. And then it gave like all these things like his average price is this. He's sold 60 properties in a year. I'm like, and it was not horribly off. And then it gave this thing saying, and then the metrics can be different, right? That list could have been more premier homes that are over $4 million. And Danny's sweet spot is more like 800,000 to 1-2. It gave like a pretty good analysis. I didn't come up for my brother. He certainly was like, that was pretty still impressive that Chat GPT still kicked out some pretty nice metrics about it. And I the funny thing is part of things that you say about KeyCrew is you say this is like our Napster moment, which to me is funny because only an old person knows space Napster, right? That's probably
Yeah.
20 to 20 something years old.
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple of things you touched on there, definitely worth commenting on. So first, like the Napster moment piece is that what we mean by that is it goes back to what I studied in business school. I had a great professor who talked about how Napster was a huge opportunity that the media blew, music companies messed up because along comes a new technology that has the ability to fundamentally change how people, in this case, consume music. And people in the media companies who controlled how they were distributing their music, they turned around and what did they do? They sued their customers, they sued the company, and they completely poo-pooed it and they turned a blind eye and they said, no, we're going to keep doing things as it's always been done. However, other technology companies, there were some companies who embraced the new technology, the Spotify's of the world, Pandora and other digital iTunes and things like that. And now the companies who embraced the new technology now control the industry. So I think that the metaphor for the media, which is a place that we play, is that the future is coming. The way that people are searching, the way that people are consuming content, be that looking for realtors or reading articles about real estate, is more rapidly than anyone could have predicted, is rapidly going towards this chat GPT, perplexity, anthropic, like this chat dynamic where there's these giant engines that are just sucking in all the information that's out there to make recommendations. And so anyone, whether you're a media company who's trying to figure out the future of your revenue, or you're an individual, a team leader trying to optimize your marketing strategy, the teams that are embracing this as the future of discovery have a generational opportunity to get ahead. So I think that's like the thing that I think that most folks, when we have these conversations with folks in the industry, there's two camps. There's the folks who are perhaps afraid because I've worked the last decade, multiple decades, building out my brand and my reputation, et cetera, et cetera. And now I'm hearing that like the game is changing and where's my role in that? And then the other group is that I feel like I'm behind. How am I ever going to catch up, et cetera? And the good news is there's good news on both sides if you make the right moves now. And I'm happy to for either one of those groups to go into what specific strategies they should be thinking about for this next generational shift of AI search.
So Napster is something I think more older. I think even another example is really the Blockbuster video scenario, right? Where they could have bought Netflix and they were like, who's going to want to have a DVD mailed to their house. That's how you're going to watch a show, and you get one or you get two. And look what that turned into. And Netflix trying to buy Warner Brothers, Paramount, or whatever. And so it's the same thing. But yes, so change is right. Isn't the only thing constant is change, and you do have to adapt. What's interesting for me as being a broker owner of a real estate company is how many times a day does my phone ring and texting and emails with someone trying to sell me something, right? So that's probably one of the harder things for me as an owner of what things should I do and what things shouldn't I do. And I feel that I do have to experiment with different things. And so you have to do it in a way that makes sense, right? Where you're not committing large sums of money, but appropriate sums of money to test things. Test things, see how they go. I still do print ad because I know that I'm getting people get the magazine, they touch it, they open it, and then they comment on it. But digital's clearly important too. And I would say that the moment the Napster moment right now is between like homes.com, Zillow, realtor.com, is that Zillow is still the number one source where people, when they're looking for homes, click through, right? But I believe what you said is it's going to change to people asking their phone what houses are available in this zip code or in this block, and AI will get the houses from all of those places and present them. So it's the same thing with who should I use, what plumber, what this, what that. And so you'd certainly want to make sure that your name at least appears so that you can get into the game.
Yeah. I would say, just to validate what you were saying before, is that a lot of the same blocking and tackling that you've already been doing, that a lot of top performing teams have already been doing, is a lot of those same moves are a really good foundation for the future of search, this AI search visibility. And I think there's a lot of smoke and mirrors. It sounds like a lot of magic for how AI search works, but I'm happy to break that down in a way that's maybe more digestible for folks so you can just have a sense of what's actually influencing.
Sure, I think that clearly would be helpful because everyone says AI is different things. And in the real estate world, how is that helping or how is it being used? I think, right?
Yeah, absolutely. ChatGPT, Perplexity, Anthropic, there's a number of platforms that folks go on and they ask questions to in a chat kind of a format. And it's not magic. The way these platforms are getting their information is essentially going out to a wide variety of sources on the internet and then compiling that up and then delivering that in a nice, easy to consume format. And that's probably going to be the way things are done in ChatGPT and other kind of search for the foreseeable future, at least this next iteration. It's hard to say the foreseeable future in this AI age, but for
Right.
that is a pretty solid framework for how things will work. So what does that mean? It means that there's a funny metaphor that essentially a ChatGPT search is just three Google searches or Bing searches wrapped up in a trench coat, like pretending like there's something different. Like it really is search the internet, see what's out there, pull it back. So when you say that it's surprising that ChatGPT got the information right, it's not magic. It went out to your website or Zillow or realtor.com or homes.com, et cetera, and it processed that information, then wrapped it up in a nice AI chat wrapper and delivered it to you on a silver platter. So the places we break it down into a few pillars that are, if you are controlling your narrative in these places, you're probably going to be going in the right direction for AI search. AI search is looking at your owned channels, your owned media. That's your social channels, your website, your blog. So if you've been posting on social, if you have a decent blog, if your website's more or less up to date, has some good content on it, like you get the check in that box. That's the foundation. You can do more. There's ways to optimize, but like that's chunk number one. Chunk number two that ChatGPT and these similar sites are looking at, these similar tools are looking at, is the directories. So you want to make sure your profile as an agent, as a team leader, is up to date and optimized on all the platforms that folks are looking at when they're looking to see top agent in XYZ. As part of the reason that KeyCrew Media built our own directory site as like a phase one is that we know that those are performing very well in search, and the AI search engines are putting a lot of stock in that. Your own media, the directory sites, those are two good places that, again, you have control over. You can influence those things. Third is announcements, awards. So there's a lot of local awards. A lot of companies put out press releases and make announcements. You can influence, and those things do show up in influence search on AI. And that's a thing you can do and have some influence over. And then the biggest thing, and this is where we position it as a company, is that getting other brands to talk about you is perhaps the biggest signal of all. So if you're getting your company mentioned as the go-to thought leader in a wide variety of publications, it's local media, it's trade media, it's the business insiders and associated presses of the world, etc. Those signals from a wider variety of publications, that's perhaps both the hardest but also the most valuable for individual teams that want to outperform in their market. Those are the biggest signals to these search engines of anything, and something that there's perhaps a new opportunity for folks to look into.
Yeah, it's crazy. So this is all for how people find you. But and I'm not a person that says either scale for the sake of scaling or technical. And so I think we're talking about search, where I think AI is clearly there. And I think it's important for all agents to be able to get their hands around, wrap themselves around it and understand it. A lot of people are also using AI in how they interact with clients. So that's different. That's like a different use of AI. And so your part of the business, I think, is very now and important and helpful how to get business, but you're trying to get people to then talk to like people to talk to people, as opposed to there's some platforms and programs out there that basically puts the computer so that I don't have to text my clients, chatbots and other things potentially where I'm not where it's basically going through my email, it's answering my email, it's and so that's and I know because I've had people on the podcast that say, "Oh, we use AI and we don't have to do this or this type of stuff." So it's interesting how people are implementing that. I still think at this point that consumers want to talk to agents and people because there's still the personal touch is important. 10 years from now, maybe we're not needed because maybe a computer can do it better. Maybe the good news is again, being old is that I don't have 30 years left in the business. I got to make it another 10 or 15. How about we'll do that, right? But I think obviously technology is so important and use technology to make you better and faster. So I do think that's the thing was where people hear AI and there's different things where it's this is getting clients and then how do you deal with the clients? And there are obviously ways to automate some of the processes that take a lot of time that, but that's I think that's the secret sauce. And I think that's also something that we're still working through in
Yeah,
this with this the advent of AI.
I would totally agree with many of the things you said, that using AI to allow you to do the more human parts that you bring to the table, work connecting with clients, showing homes, making offers, being connecting, networking, having something unique to say. There's a part of every job, most jobs, specifically in real estate though, that is unapologetically and should stay unapologetically human and connection oriented. I have talked to for our platform. We have interviewed now for market research over 1,500 real estate experts from the fields of AI to individual team leaders and market experts to capital allocators, et cetera, et cetera. We've talked to some of the teams that are aggressively trying to replace real estate teams and agents because they think it can all be done from AI. I haven't, I don't buy it. I think there's a very limited use case for the transactions that will be 100% implemented without a trusted expert professional who is advising, guiding, and facilitating transactions. There's a place, but we're not talking a widespread replacement of agents or teams anytime in the future, as far as I'm concerned.
So I agree with that assessment as well. I did 55 transactions last year for $40 million in sales. My team did $90 million of business, 150 transactions. That's where I say scaling for the sake of scaling. Like at some point, that was a good year, right? Do I need to be bigger? Not necessarily, right? I want to be the best me that I can be. I don't need to double that or triple that. Clearly, finding people who want more expensive homes is a way to scale, right? But I'm going to find the people that I'm going to find, right? And it is what it is. And it's been crazy, obviously, with COVID and how house values have gone up. So, in essence, income has gone up because everything has gone up because it's percent based. But ultimately, I've heard people where they go to a listing appointment, they turn their phone on, they're recording, and then it summarizes obviously the call, which is not bad. Obviously, using it to take notes, note taking is a good thing. And then it also gives you, from a training perspective, it says this is the things you did well, this is the things you didn't do well, and what you need to improve upon. So I I don't know if that's going to take the place of why don't you just put the phone down and the phone can then talk to the client, or the phone can talk to the client's phone. Like, why are you and I actually two real people? Although I'm not sure if you're an AI image. I
I'm
didn't ask
very
that.
convincing. Yeah.
Okay, very right. Because why would you make someone look like me? You wouldn't make a bot look like me or an AI thing. Fair enough. Like you and I could be having this with my bot speaks to your bot and answer maybe this, but it doesn't work like that way, at least now. And I think it's always fair to say we don't know what 10, 15, 20 years is going to be like. We all could be robots, and hopefully the robots take over the business and we can all spend time on a golf course or on a beach.
Yeah, that so coming back to what you're saying, my opinion is that as two things will happen in parallel. We will have technological advancement, which does allow AI and technology to do a broader scope of work. It'll be able to do more. But in parallel to that, I don't see how we as humans will not have this reactive thing towards I need human connection. We are wired to want human connection. Authenticity is having and will continue to have a resurgence. And if you look at, imagine a world that becomes increasingly technological and AI and fake and all this stuff is like you're losing the human element there. How does the pendulum not swing back towards craving some human connection and guidance and emotional support in what is, we're talking about buying and selling homes, one of the most stressful and important and consequential moments in someone's life. So I think that yes, we're deep in the weeds of AI, but it plays a role as it allows and should foster and facilitate humans to have more meaningful connection. I know I sound like a robot when I'm saying allow the humans to have a more meaningful connection. My
Well, I
wife
mean,
does say I'm a bit of a
you
robot
know,
sometimes, but
I,
yeah,
I
that's
think
it.
I think from a psychological standpoint, the data is still it's out and it's going to only get worse of the effects of the pandemic. And if you looked at like people in education, where my son was a junior during the pandemic, it certainly was different than my junior year. I feel the two grades that I feel worse were the year older than him who were seniors, right? Like senior year and your prom and graduation and trips and all that were taken away. But the ones that I feel the worst for were really kindergartners, right? Kindergartners, first graders. They're young kids that need that interaction. And yet they were on Zoom. I couldn't like
Yeah.
it's going to be something that's going to affect people for generations. I couldn't even imagine it, and that's really where it's really hard. So I think that does talk about we do need the human interaction for many things, right? For
Yeah.
if when autonomous driving becomes all over and safe, you're like, okay, do you really need to drive if there's a computer that's safe that's driving you? That seems like that's for good, right? So
Yeah.
that's okay. Actually, that might be good because then everyone in the car can be more social with each other because you don't have to pay attention to the road. That's where we're using technology to be able to do more social interactions. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of data with children today and our youth and that are fixated on their phone, and instead of talking to people they're looking at TikTok or other things that make everything look that it's this amazing place. And obviously, we're all human. We're human, and we all have good things and bad things, and no one's perfect. And that's the only thing. So how does AI not necessarily change some of that, but allows us to have the social interactions that you're talking about?
Yeah, I'd say that a takeaway I think is pretty important for folks who are listening and trying to figure out how to get the most leverage out of these tools in a way that allows them to focus on the human aspect and what they're good at and the value that they bring to the table while getting the most out of these tools is to think that we are definitely in a thunderstorm right now. This is a disruptive moment. It's a perhaps generational moment in technology, just like the burgeoning days of the internet. And in a thunderstorm, if you imagine a car race, it's tough to overcome or get overcome by a car in perfect conditions. But when it's raining and there's thunder, you can make up a lot of ground or lose a lot of ground in a pretty short period of time. So just specifically, just like because I want to offer as much value as possible to the folks who are trying to get the think about what to do here, is what teams should be focused on there in terms of anything visibility, discoverability, marketing, et cetera, is using tools not to replace your marketing, not to replace your social media, not to replace your voice on a podcast. Or I'm not a big fan of these avatars that are pretending to be you on social media, which do exist, but capturing and amplifying. For example, Daniel, you in this conversation, taking your podcasts, turning them into clips using AI tools, posting them on your social media, using that to create the blog content, like taking your voice and amplifying it using AI. AI is really good at taking raw material, whether that's just talking to your phone and recording something and then chopping it up and turning it into other content, or it's being on a podcast like your podcast, like capturing, creating, and then syndicating. You can get a lot of leverage using AI by using out of the box tools to amplify what you have to say. But I would absolutely never replace yourself, your original voice, your original insights as that core element of everything that you're doing. You want to be the one who, you don't just say, write a blog post on what's happening in my market. You want to know what you want to say about what's happening in your market, prompt it with that information and have it amplify that. So basically it's amplifying your knowledge through those channels. That is the way that individuals and teams, even if they're budget constrained, can do a lot more and make up a lot of ground is by creating more and amplifying what they have to say through a number of platforms. If there's one
It,
takeaway, I think that's leverage the tools to amplify your voice. That's it.
I think it's been awesome speaking to you because I agree with what you're saying. You're just in our world today, people don't always make sense, and there's not always common sense. And so I think what you're saying is totally makes sense. And it's really, it's like saying all those things that are being done still need to be done. It's just this is the way, like, I know that there are things that, like, in the back in the internet day, you talk about search engine optimization, SEO, and you've really turned this into an AEO, right? AI engine optimization. It's just really, it's search engine optimization on like steroids, basically. So and there's so many different, so it's not just here, it's throughout everything. It's through the ecosphere of social media or
Yeah,
digital media.
for digital media. Yeah, I mean that's how this is my third media company that I've started with some of the same co-founders. We had one nice little exit a couple of years ago, other ones plugging along quite well, but we've never had more fun or scaled quicker than what we're doing in the last year and a half at KeyCrew Media, which is basically we're creating high quality, high volume market insights sourced from experts. As I mentioned, we've interviewed 1,500 plus, 1,700 plus experts. We have 2,700 folks in network contributing content. And then we're creating market thought leadership for the real estate industry, which we're syndicating out to hundreds of publications. So we're eating our own dog food, following our own advice. Like we're taking great insights, turning them into high quality content and pushing them out to a media landscape that's hungry for those insights. And that's what we do is day in, day out is just create real estate insights. We love doing it.
I think it's such a, of the things that come in front of me all the time, this is exciting to me as well because I think it's needed, it's necessary for agents and brokers and teams to stay in front. This is just really just a way to get your brand out there. You still have to be every day, do the things that you need to do, dot I's, cross T's, block and tackle everything that you do to be a good agent. You have to answer your phone when it rings. You have to then show people houses but this it's a whole new world of how people are going to find you, which I always tell people the sign on someone's lawn for the brand is irrelevant, whether it's my sign, another sign. And I tell people this all the time. It doesn't, that's not what matters is if I'm listing your house, putting it on the market, having it available for everyone to see, having openness, not closeness. And there's some push a little bit to off market or coming. No, let right supply and demand. The more people that can see things, the better. And then just basically be the best you that you can be, provide value to those people that are coming to you, because every person that comes to me through AI, I now have them and I'm in their Rolodex, right? I'm in their phone. And when they have friends and family who might ask them before they ask ChatGPT who they should use, they're going to say, use me. And what's interesting is over the past 10 years, I do a lot of lead generation and I actually give them all out to my team. I don't really take anyone from like a Zillow or things like that. I share them because that's how I'm helping to grow their business. But I'm getting things where I actually, all of my leads now are from past clients or people doing these new AI searches, right? And that's incredible. And so what's good is that I don't need to, I said this, I don't need to scale to do 200 deals because that would be too much. Certainly, if more people come to me, I can work with them and with my other agents or whatever, or it depends. I do work with people all the time. I don't have showing agents and things like that, but it allows the more people that come in, I'm able to help them. So we're definitely at a crossroads. It's a cool thing it's interesting. It's scary, but you know what? Every day you just got to wake up and get your clothes on, run your business, and not worry so much about what might happen, and not worry, just go out and do your business.
As you said, the blocking and tackling, the fundamentals of what it takes to perform well in this industry or most industries are pretty constant. AI can
Right.
be leveraged. You don't necessarily need to become the AI expert per se. Most of the folks who are saying they're AI experts have back office teams or advisors who are helping them to do the execution. You just need to have the right tools or the right team on your side to execute and let you focus on what you do best. I
Right.
think that's the clear path to success here in 2026.
The good news for me is once this podcast is up and running, I know that you're going to do a really good job sending it to all the different aspects and the links that we had this talk, and that's going to help hopefully both of our business. And certainly I want to help your business as well, because I think helping your business is helping the agents and brokers that listen to the podcast. So Steve, how can people get in contact with you if they're interested in
Yeah,
KeyCrew
absolutely.
services?
Keycrew.co. So keycrew.co is our website. We're KeyCrew Media. We own and operate 6 digital print publications for the real estate industry and syndicate content out to hundreds of other platforms from, yeah, the ones we mentioned. And we have direct content licensing arrangements with some of the top AI search platforms in the industry. As a publisher, that's kind of part of our not so secret sauce. And we love interviewing market experts for our coverage. So most of 95% of what we do is non-paid, straight editorial coverage of the real estate industry. We love talking to folks who have a unique on-the-ground perspective of what's really happening. Connect with us, talk to us, and we'll see if we can use your insights in some of our regular market coverage. And yeah, for brands or team leaders who want more, they can leverage the power of our distribution network for their own benefit. Candidly, that's how we monetize and how we offer value to the ecosystem.
Well, that's great. I appreciate you coming on the show this week. It's clearly a hot topic. It's going to be a hot topic, and it's going to be something that we all are going to learn more about and implement in our businesses and maybe implement in our personal lives as well. With that, Steve, thank you very much. Steve Marcinuk for KeyCrew, thank you for coming on our show. Everyone else, I hope you enjoy the show and listen to Steve's insight. And it's Daniel Berger with the Adventures of a Real Estate Broker. Until next time, thank you very much. If today's stories opened your eyes, wait till you see what's next. Hit the video on screen to join the next adventure with Daniel Berger.